This 2000 Kawasaki Prairie 400 4x4 was free. This was given to me from a subscriber of the channel. He said he would like to see something happen with it, so let's see what we can get done with it. Now, as far as what I know about it, he said something to do with it was smoking, something with the brakes. Honestly, I have not checked it out yet. So we got no front brakes at all. I did leave the key on, so the key didn't fall out, so I have no idea if the battery's any good. But none of that. Some of these cables up here, he was saying something with. The choke cable might be broken down there. Just visually, that's broke. Looks like our shifter has seen some better days. Overall, it's not too shabby. Pretty clean unit. I did notice while we were loading it, I thought they were both backwards, but that tire is off the bead. This front rack's a bit beat up. I have the rear rack sitting over there, and I pulled it over just to see if this thing turned over. And I'll be honest with you, that doesn't quite feel like low compression. Maybe it had a stuck ring, something of that sort. I'm gonna pop this off. If you aren't familiar, the 300s and the 400s have a lever right here. Sometimes you gotta push down on the seat while you're pulling that. There's supposed to be some stuff wrapped around it so it doesn't eat into your finger. The battery does not look too promising. The air filter, not too bad. Oh, maybe not. Not too good either. It's all deteriorated right there. Some oily residue down there in the bottom. But we're getting nothing with the key on. I'm gonna go grab my Outlander and pull it up next to this thing and see if we can turn it over. What is that? Oh man, that's some next level half-assery right there. So there's supposed to be a fuse in these, and they kind of plug together, and they plugged that, they just wired it together. Well, little did you know, if you unplug, they literally plug into each other. So if you're out on the trail and you blow a fuse, you don't gotta just rip it and do that. Like, why? Why? Ugh. Whatever. At least it's not missing those pieces. I can put some heat shrink over the wires and put a fuse in there like it's supposed to be. It does feel like the back brake works. They have drum brakes on the rear of these, and drum brakes are just problematic. And right there, that gauge is probably trash, and I don't think we'll be replacing that. Fuel smells fresh. A little bit in there. But I'm getting sidetracked. Let's go get the Outlander. All right, so we're hooked up there. Turn the key on, neutral lights on. And the Outlander is very dirty because my daughter got her little Outlaw 50, Outlaw 90 stuck. And my push bar is just the right height to, you know, I can kind of push her out from the rear grab bar. And she just roosted me the whole way out of that hole. Nothing. Is the gas on? It is not. I'm gonna put that to reserve. And since this was free, I didn't spend a bunch of time asking questions. He said he had bought it secondhand from somebody. Does have a Chinese carb on it. And now that I say that, I remember him mentioning it. Should probably check this oil. It's got oil, not very much, but it's got it. So far, one of the other things I'm noticing, like, we're missing a bunch of bolts. A bunch of bolts. I wonder if something's wrong with the cam. I know some of these had cam issues, and that really sounds like it's like turning over, but not a whole lot's passing through the system, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Doesn't sound like stuff's going out of the exhaust. Pop this air filter off of here. Oh yeah, boy, she broke. Look at that. Now I might actually have this. I think I do. Okay, we're getting some suction through there. That's still connected right there. Let's see. They did it to the other fuse too. I don't know what, I don't remember offhand what these fuses go to. It's been a long time since I touched a Kawasaki. Hey, that's not bolted down, so just pull that off real quick. Tank's not bolted down either. There we go. This tank's tight fits. Finest Chinesium carb money can buy. Huh. The choke is on this carb. Interesting. I want to see if the valves are moving in there. Take a look inside. See what it looks like. That was not on there very well. So this has one of those setups on it where the antifreeze runs through the carb for whatever reason. We got plenty of fuel right there, that's for sure. So we're just gonna kind of cock this off to the side. That's weird. I know my Outlander's not losing power. The battery's fully charged. What is smoking down here? Something's wrong. Hopefully we're not about to have a fire. Something is smoking. Looks like that starter wire is overheating. It melted the sheathing for the idle speed. Interesting. Interesting. Oh shit, it's still hot. Pull this spark plug out of here and see what it looks like. That was in there good. Real tight. I think he said he bought this from some kid because most of these bolts right here are all loose. So we got a Chinese spark plug. This is something I don't do. In my opinion, always go with OEM spark plugs. But look at that. Look how fouled out that is. That doesn't look like it's been burning oil. It looks like it's running extremely rich. Probably should check if it's got spark. I'll try it with this plug and see. It's got spark, but in my opinion, not real nice spark. And since this plug is already out, we're gonna see if we got some compression or not. For some reason, I feel like I remember this compression tester having issues, but we're gonna try it anyways. Somehow I have like 3 different compression testers and only one of them I know confidently is a good working compression tester. This one's pretty new. I remember buying it. I don't remember why I think something's wrong with it. Should have just thrown it away. So let's see. I'm no rocket scientist, but there should be more compression than that. Now I know it does have an auto decomp cam in it. And right now there's not even a carb on the unit. $30, $40, $50 PSI. Now I see why I didn't toss that compression tester, because none of the other compression testers I have fitted. Now this one I've had forever. It probably doesn't work. We're gonna try something else. I'm gonna try putting a little bit of oil in that cylinder and see if it brings it up. When I was looking online, because I don't have the manual for this, it was saying that that should register at 60 PSI. But we'll give it a shot. I also have a leak down tester, and I normally wouldn't test so much, but honestly, I don't feel like it has low compression. Try this again. Now, if you have bad rings and you put oil in there, it brings your compression up quite a bit. That's kind of shows you got bad rings. I just don't want to go tear this top end all the way down, and it doesn't need it. Unless it needs like a crank, in which case you won't be seeing this video because it's not worth putting a crank into. Let's see. Yeah, boys. We're getting a lot more compression with that oil in there. It's starting to cycle out now. Like she might need a top end. Hopefully the cylinder's not scored up, because these cylinders, they are not cheap. Not cheap at all. Hopefully I can get away with just honing it. But since we're already all hooked up, got that extra compression boost, we'll try to start it anyways. Probably hook the coil up. Come on. You know you want to do this. It doesn't want to do it. So I guess now we need to take this whole thing apart and see if we can get by with just what we need, or if we're gonna have to buy everything. So I fought the plastics to get those off, and I wonder if the reason this is smoked like that is due to no antifreeze. There's no coolant in the system, at least so far. I can't see any in the radiator. These hoses should have had some come out. I don't know what's going on here. There's some kind of brass adapter, some kind of filter on it too. I don't think there was any type of filter for these. I'm going to block that off. It's unnecessary. So just put a few blocks on it and call it good. There's no reason to cool the carb down. These carbs don't run that hot. I'm not even sure it goes into the carb. It might. Every one of these, when I parted them out, like almost every single one of them that had been bypassed, every unit I've ever bought that had that type of setup, this stuff gets bypassed. I will double check that that's acceptable, not just me ghetto rigging it. But we'll tear this down real quick. The choke cable was also just dangling. Well, this is a bad sign. That's the thermostat. No coolant still has yet to come out of anything. That smells like an exhaust. Looks like oil though. Makes you wonder, is this burning oil? Or are we getting exhaust gases? Like a cracked cylinder head, possibly a bad head gasket. All right, we're all apart. And the weirdest thing is I got the valve cover off and it has this smell. The best way for me to describe it would be burnt electronics. So I get it all off. You can kind of see right there, but it looks like the head gasket probably blew right in that area. Everything else seems to look fine. Journals, they look okay. A little dirty, but. So that's one thing. And then here's the cylinder. Looking gross. Now the whole thing, I managed to get maybe a literal spoon, like a spoon you'd have in your kitchen sink. Literal spoon full of coolant out of this thing. And that's the oil. The crank seems to be fine, but there's the piston. Yeah. So definitely a full top end. I don't know if that'll hone out. We'd have to see. To see what kind of wear it's got. Doesn't feel like a whole lot. Looks like this was locked up with rust. Someone managed to get it to fire back up. Those stains in there are from rust. A little bit of wear, but nothing real deep. I can feel a little bit of it. So I'm gonna go take a look and see what we're looking at parts wise for this. I do not want to turn this into a money pit, something that's gonna cost hundreds of dollars to fix and it be worth a few bucks afterwards. I mean, these prairies aren't bringing what they used to. A cylinder may take us out of the equation if I have to buy a cylinder, because these are around 500 bucks. I mean, buying a piston's one thing, but a whole cylinder at $500 plus what else it needs. You know, I've got a little list over here. And we're back. We finally got parts in. Surprisingly, everything came really quickly except for the head gasket set. You know, that's how it is. Bam, got a new head gasket set. And I guess I haven't published that video yet. Vertex is a brand that's, you know, they're a pretty good brand. I had an issue with the head gasket on a Ranger 500. That video will probably come out after this. They ended up sending me another one, and lo and behold, it has the same issue. I guess I can kind of show this. See how the gasket's like, this is the head gasket right here. The gray behind it is also the centerpiece of the head gasket. I don't, hold on, I'll just open. All right, so it's out now. See, this is supposed to be one piece all together. I mean, they're, well, it's not one piece, but they're usually just like a multi-layer gasket right there. It's all stuck together. Well, the gasket kit came in like this, and I thought, okay, no big deal. I'll just push it around and get it all lined up, which I managed to do, get it all installed. I fire the engine up, and it was hitting just right around the edge right here. And it made the engine sound like it was knocking. So it kind of got me to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this Chinese gasket stuff. They've worked out for me in the past, but the amount of headache that had caused me, it's not worth it. So I had to spend a little more to get the Vertex kit versus like this niche kit is 20 bucks. They sent me another one and sent me a refund. I hope they weren't expecting me to give them good words for it, because I'm not. I don't know why I've been holding on to that for a few days, but I have. We got a used rear hub. It's a little beat up, but these hubs are aluminum. So this right here will strip out. That's what's wrong with ours. It's a steel axle, aluminum hub. 2 used axles, front, because both the boots are torn on the ones on there. We've got, this is for the choke. New piston, WSM. It is wild that there's no aftermarket support, hardly, for these 400s. Need to put a knife up here. We got us a nice piston. I guess this is a higher end type piston, because this wasn't cheap. I'll put the price on there, but I think this is 140. Why they put the numbers so big on the outside of that? That seems stupid. Oh well. They make pistons, so I'm sure they know what they're doing. I've never even heard of WSM performance prior to this. Got a new air filter. It's actually kind of difficult to find one of these lids used. They're not too bad. This was new OEM. I'm about the seal too to go with it. It's the new fuel gauge. I've used these in the past. They work just fine. This is for the rear rack hardware. There's these big spacers in there that you have to mount the rack, which sucks because I was going through some of my plastics and turns out I have those, but oh well, I already ordered them. New sparky plug. NGK is the only way to go. New Tusk oil filter. Man, that looks like a Polaris filter. TK303? Yeah, it is. I have one of those. Well, that's a bummer. Whatever, I already have that. New front master and a battery from over at Tusk. I should get that set up and draining. But first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and get the valve seals put into the cylinder head so that it's all ready to go. I already honed the cylinder. It looks pretty good. I did manage to find a carb kit that I've had. Last year I bought one of these and the dude said he did all this work to it and couldn't get started. And there was a pair of them and I got it back to the shop to find out that it smoked like a freight train. So it got parted out. Oh yeah, that one needed a rear diff and it came with a parts diff. He failed to mention how bad it smoked. It was running. And then the other part I did get real lucky on, and I'm still in the process of getting this thing clean because it was rough. We got an OEM carb. Get away from that Chinese carb. That was dirt cheap. You can never find them. It's like 30 bucks. You never find OEM carbs for that cheap. So we got an OEM carb. And this morning, I went and got these 2 tires mounted on the front of this, or these 2 tires I had used mounted on these wheels so that I can put them on there and it have good tires on it, because what it had on the fronts was like 27s, which both of them were off the bead. And once I put those on, even if I put them on the bead and put them on there, it's gonna look really stupid because the front tires were a lot bigger than the rears. And it's obviously bad for the 4-wheel drive. Considering this is an all-time 4-wheel drive unit, that's real bad. I mean, it's one thing if you've got 26s and 27s, or 26s and 25s or something like that, and you only use it when you hit the mud hole, you got a pretty good chance of breaking something, but not as bad as like this here, riding around with 28s in the front, 25s in the back, or 27s in the front, 25s in the back. You're probably gonna break something just riding it around. And it's gonna ride terrible because the amount of rotations are gonna be different from the front versus the back. So I somehow missed, there was some really bad pitting where I was referring to earlier that it said, you know, that was where the blown ahead gasket was probably at. There was a bunch of stuff built up on it. Once I washed it and cleaned all the parts up, there's really bad pitting, so I'm trying to deck it down and hopefully save it to be able to be used. We'll see. All right, so I did what I could with the cylinder head and got as much of that cleaned up as possible. I am pretty sure the copper spray gasket will help me seal that. It is 100 times better than it was. It's not perfect, and I think the only right way to do it perfect and right would be to send the head off or replace it, because whoever had this ran it with a blown head gasket for some time. That's rough. That like ate the gasket. I took a lot of material off that head, and it kind of makes me a little bit nervous trying to do this, but I did get the Tusk gasket kit in that I bought, in which case it's trash regardless, because the way they sent it allowed the gasket to get all bent up. And you can probably run this, but I don't know. I don't want to. I'm gonna run the Vertex head gasket, but what I'm gonna do is double up on the base gasket. I don't know if this is right. I'm just hoping it'll work out. I don't really want to have that in the budget to have to put a whole nother head on this thing. I don't see it being worthwhile. It's a $300 or $400 cylinder head for these. So we're gonna give it a shot and hope for the best. Let's get it put back together, see what it does. Everything's back together, and I don't think I missed anything. I did almost screw up. I started getting all this stuff ready and forgot to put oil in it, but realized I didn't put oil in it yet. So we got oil in there now. And we're gonna fire it up. Hear how she runs. Make sure I didn't screw anything up before everything goes back on, because it's kind of a pain to put this one together. I need a better ultrasonic, because honestly that carb, like I put it back together and it's good, but I guess the best way to put it is it could definitely be better. All right, where's the ignition at? It should be, oh, it's right here. You're joking, right? Maybe this battery needs some love. It's a new battery, but I did not charge it. Technically, you're supposed to charge them, but I never do. Pull my Outlander over here and we'll see if a little more juice does something. I need to buy me a jump box. Just somehow never ends up on the top of the list. That's better. So I definitely need to charge that battery. But I wonder why we're not starting. Is it a fueling issue? Oh, I guess I could choke it up here. Ooh. I was about to manually choke the thing. Try manually choking it. Make sure we're getting fuel in here too. This will spit fuel all up over my hand. Yep, we're getting fuel. Double check, make sure we're getting spark. This thing's covered in fuel. I use a lot of oil when I rebuild these top ends, just as I'd rather be well lubricated. It might have very well fouled it out. We're not getting spark. Where did the spark go? Make sure everything's connected right up here. Everything looks good. All the electrical stuff I messed with was right here. That's getting a good connection. I messed up somewhere, because we definitely had spark before, and we don't now. What would cause me to have lost spark? Okay. There it is, this switch. So I'm pressing the button and moving it back and forth. I got it to a spot where it's functional and the start button actually works. Dang it. Pull it off and the dang spark plug, I keep dropping it. Dang spark plug boot came off with it. Now, a lot of times these are threaded on. That looks like it's threads. Feels solid. Send it. Hopefully I can clean that switch out and I don't mean I have to order one. Let's see. That was a little low. That's to the right, correct? Yeah, I think so. Get some more coolant in there. We may end up having a bit of stuff to burn off. Looks like it's coming down now. That was probably just the assembly lube. Well, it lives. We're running a little rich. Yep. Gotta do a little carb tuning. No big deal. But it's running. All right, let's try this again. I started originally with 2.5 turns out on there to fuel ratio screw, and now I bumped it down to 2. Let's see what that does. That's better. There was a lot of fuel on the inside of that intake boot. I don't know, 2.5 turns is about normal for most units. It's still doing it a bit. I want to do this front end real quick. I'll do this front end because I want to get it under a load. See if there's stuff in the pipe that needs to be burned out too. No telling what all issues this thing had. I mean, we didn't hear it run beforehand, so let's do this front end real quick and get that knocked out. We got to do the brakes, the axle, front master. Try to bleed all that real quick, and yeah, then we just got the left switch and cosmetics. All right, so this front end, we're replacing both of those front axles and that rear hub. Took me maybe 45 minutes, I think. Something like that, like very close to 45 minutes. Now on a Polaris, that would have been a 3-hour job, just because everything's so rusted and stuck together. I guess it's been a while since I've done anything that wasn't Polaris. And even the top end on this thing, when I put that back together, I don't think it took me but hour. It was much faster putting it back together than it was taking it apart. But now we're at a point where we can put some gas in it and take it for a spin. I'm debating if I want to try to put the tank on it or not. Yeah, let's put the tank on it.
A little spring in there broke. Let me see if I can fix that. This goes to the left switch. So it's not gonna make very good contact. It's not holding pressure.
Harbor Freight spring kit, and we are good to go. All right, now we can take this thing for a spin, see how it rides. Not too shabby. I'll turn the gas on.
This to where like push forward for high gear, press down for low. But like if you try to press the button right here, don't move. You just gotta move it back and forth. Kind of a stupid design. Why didn't you just make it where you press the button, right? I guess that makes it so you can't just fly through all the gears, you have to stop at each one.
Well, I knew I was gambling, and sometimes you gamble and you lose. Yeah, unfortunately. I was riding it around, trying to make sure everything was tuned in, running good. Got that carb, I'm tuning it, fine tuning it, everything's all good. Pull it back up to the shop, I stop, and I've got a pile. I washed it, so it's not there now, but right through here, there's a pile of coolant mixed oil. And I was like, dang, was that there earlier? I don't exactly know where it even came from yet. I was like, is that there earlier? Nah. I washed it off. So I washed it off, and I was gonna run it again. I was like, I should check the oil. I should check the coolant.
It's hard to tell from the video, but if you know, then you know.
Yep. One of two. And I came down here to the oil. And I just took a gander in the hole. Yep. The forbidden milkshake. Now, if it were just in the oil, maybe I'd be like, all right, we'll just change the oil real quick. We don't stress it too hard. No big deal. Man, them dogs are making some weird noises. But, being that it's in the coolant, means that we are mixing. Now, I knew I was gambling a little bit with that, trying to deck that down, resurface the head. Unfortunately, being in the coolant means I'm gonna have to replace the head and the cylinder. Honestly, I don't really know where I'm at with this one. Part of me wants to finish it because it was, you know, given, because the guy likes the, he watches the channel and wanted to see it come across. Part of it's kind of like, man, is it worth it? Because that head and cylinder ain't gonna be real cheap. Piston should still be fine. But head, cylinder, gasket kit, and the water pump is honestly a little questionable to me, in my opinion. So probably end up having to pull that off too. Oh, and I broke this. Here I was thinking this thing was gonna be done today, ready to go out the door. All I had to do is mount the plastics and everything back on it. But no, the only other good option is if I go find a Prairie 400 parts bike. And that might be the best choice. Because there was something I didn't catch until I was about to start trying to mount the rear rack up on it. See, there's a hole there. And there's a hole there. Well, there's supposed to be bolt mounting points. And yeah, they are broken. Now, as to my knowledge, that the Prairie 400 and Bayou 400 share the same cylinder and head. I know they share the same head. I think they share the same cylinder. So we'll see how I'm gonna take care of this, but this is not good news. This is bad news. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We'll figure out what we're gonna do with this. We'll figure something out. It's gotta do something, because at this point, like, I got too much money in parts just to say, oh well, park it in the back of the shop. Fun stuff. It's, you know, honestly, it's my mistake. My mistake. I should have caught that from the get-go. Should have caught that, and I didn't. So that's on me. I've never seen a head gasket blow out like that, where it just ate into the cylinder and head. It's like that head gasket blew, and someone just kept riding it like that. Changing the oil, I guess. I mean, these 400s had a good strong crank in them. They're not very expensive. They're not really known for going out.